You've chosen to stay put. You've chosen complacency over uncomfortability. Stuck is where we need outside assistance. The most gut-wrenching moment of stuck that I've ever experienced happened with my own kid, and you parents out there, you know that the most excruciating pain for a parent is when we see our kids suffering or struggling. It just is the deal. And I'll never forget, it was several years ago, one of my children was at a church youth event, and they were doing this, what they call, I think, like a fun run. It was kind of like an obstacle course, and so it was great fun. And so there was, on the course, I was kind of following along just out of sight so as not to embarrass my kid, but wanting to see how he did. And he was doing great, and he's running along, and so he comes to a part of the run where they had taken a hose and just, sprayed this very muddy area already and just overloaded with water. And it was like running through a mud pit. And so when you run through this mud pit, you're either going to sink into this thing, half sink into this thing, or you kind of maybe find your way through and you make it through. Well, so he's running along with his friends, and I'll never forget it. And so he's running with all of his friends, and they all kind of go through around the same time. And he goes in, and he just happened to step in one of the softest parts of the mud pit. And I mean, he just went down. It was alarming. And I never forget, I remember watching him go down, and I was like, whoa. And then I kind of started to laugh. And again, I'm by myself, and I'm out of sight. And he goes down, though, up to his chest. And I'm laughing, as a dad does. Moms always get like really nervous, but dad's kind of like, ha, 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 that's funny. And I'm watching him struggle. And then I realized this is not funny anymore because my son was truly up to his chest and unable to get out. I mean, he was so deep in the mud that he was up and he's digging his elbows in, and I can begin to see two things happening. Number one, humiliation, because his friends just left him. They turned around, ha, 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 and they laughed, and they began to move on. And then I began to see some legit fear. And so I'm standing over there going, okay, he's unable to get out by himself. My son is stuck. And so I did what any good dad would do. And I was like, hey, buddy, here, give me your hand. I'll get you out. And he wasn't embarrassed at that point that dad was helping him. He wanted out. And so I got my footing, and I reached across, and I got a hold of his hand. And then another dad was over there. I said, hey, come over here. I need your help for a second. And the other dad grabbed my hand. And so with our leverage, we were able to pull my son out of the mud, and he went on. That is stuck. Stuck is when you cannot move forward on your own. That's stuck. But I'm going to suggest to many of you today that you feel stuck. And you're not stuck. You have chosen to stay put. You've chosen complacency because of one of three voices, and maybe a combo. Here are the voices. I'm going to set you free today so that you actually realize you aren't stuck. You can move forward on your own. Here are the three voices. Fear. Fear is telling you that something bad will happen. And the feeling is worry, anxiety. You choose it, but that's the emotion. But the voice in our head is saying something bad is going to happen if you move forward. The second voice is doubt. Now, doubt is telling you that something good will not happen if you move forward. Different voice. Likes to hang out with fear. And then the third voice. Oh, by the way, the emotion. I want to make sure you catch this. When we are doubtful, the emotion is confusion. It's a confusing emotion. Why? Because our heart is longing for a desired future. But our head is telling us, I don't think it can happen. That's a confusing situation to be in. I like to say that our heads and hearts are in a wrestling match in that situation. Heart longs for it. Head's going, I don't think it can happen. The third voice, pride. Pride is telling you that what other people think or may say is more important than what you believe about yourself. This is where parents, other family members, friends, and their dissenting opinions grab a hold of us and shut us down. What is the emotion when you experience pride? It's paranoia. You get paranoid because now you're so focused on what everybody else says, what everybody else might think, and that is a recipe for going absolutely bananas in your head because you just got all the stuff skating around. So quick review. You aren't stuck. You've chosen to be complacent. You've chosen to stay put because of the voice of fear, which says something bad is going to happen, or the voice of doubt that says a good thing cannot happen, or the voice of pride that says what other people think and say is more important than what I believe. Now, when you understand that these are just voices that have taken your focus off of moving forward, you begin to realize, oh, I'm not stuck, I've just stopped. Big difference. If I'm stuck, I need someone to reach a hand and pull me out. If I've stopped, I just need to refocus on moving forward. So how do we do this with these voices? Very simple solution. Number one, you got to identify what the voice is. Is it the voice of fear? Is it the voice of doubt? Is it the voice of pride? So once I know what the voice is, I now begin to put the voice on the witness stand. This is what the voice is saying. I really recommend that you write down in a moment of quiet. It's private. Nobody else has to see this, but I can be very real with myself when I write down, I'm afraid that if I do this, this bad thing will happen. Write it out and then put it on the witness stand. Where's the evidence? It's one of two things. Either the voice of fear, doubt, and by the way, pride's never telling the truth. So we're going to leave pride over here because pride's awful. It's ugly. It's from the pit of hell. And pride's always lying. But fear and doubt at times can be telling us the truth. I find that most of the time they're lying to us, but at times they are. Here's the simple litmus test. When I put the voice of fear and doubt on the witness stand, I must ask, where's the evidence that says this voice is protecting me? What's it protecting me from? Because what we're going to find is most of the time it is holding us back. So the final act, now that we know, we push forward or we pivot. If it's protecting us, we pivot. If it's not protecting us, we push ahead because the world needs what you have to offer.
You were created to fill a unique role through your work, but it can feel overwhelming to figure out what that is. That's why I created the Get Clear Career Assessment. In just 15 minutes, you'll get customized results that clarify what you do best, the work you love to do, and the results that motivate you. All this helps you discover what you were born to do. And you'll get a list of professional possibilities to help you in your job search. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/assessment.
Big thanks to everybody who watches and listens to the show, whether you're watching live on YouTube or you're listening later via podcast, radio, Sirius XM, however you're joining us. Thank you so very much. Hey, two things. We're growing, and if you believe in this message, and we need your help. You're the number one marketing tool in the world to share. The voice of the person who consumes it is the greatest strategy. So two things I'd love for you to do. If you're watching via YouTube, would you please subscribe? And then would you share the show? And if you're listening via podcast, would you follow us? And then also share an episode or link to the show, which is very simple to do. Thank you very much. Well, I want to do something different today because I think it calls for it. I heard the sad news over the weekend that President Jimmy Carter had been moved into hospice care in Plains, Georgia. And I immediately went back to, Joe, I don't remember what year it was. I'm going to say it was 2012. It was 2012. And I was in my journey. I had never done radio, and I had paid my way on to WDUN, where the show airs today and every day, Monday through Friday. I believe the 5 o'clock hour on WDU in Gainesville, Georgia. And so I was starting out, and I was paying $250 for an hour on Saturdays to learn how to do radio. And I had some wonderful connections, and through those connections, I won't unpack the whole story, it doesn't matter. I got the opportunity to record an interview with President Jimmy Carter. And we did the full interview, and it was a lot of fun. And about a year later, I came out with my first book, One Question, Life-Changing Answers from Today's Leading Voices, where I featured one question and one answer on some of the most important life topics that you can imagine. In fact, to this day, this book is relevant the day we released it back in 2013 it will evergreen. It will be forever an evergreen product. And so anyway, I was thinking about this morning, and I think it's very relevant because we opened up the show talking about being complacent. And we are complacent. We choose complacency over being uncomfortable with having to move forward. Life has changed. Something's different. And fear and doubt and pride show up in those moments with the attempt to keep us from moving forward. And so I thought to myself, you're looking at a guy who even the kindest of historians would say his presidency was not a wild success. That's the kindest version. His presidency was failed if we only measure it by did he get reelected? And he did not. So last time we saw inflation as high as it is now. It was not a wild success. And so the day that I got the chance to interview President Jimmy Carter, it was an honor to interview a former president for sure. But this is a man who reinvented himself. His staunchest critics would say he reinvented himself, and he did a lot of good post-presidency, post-politics. I'm going to give you a snapshot for those of you that are young and you kind of know the name. Some of you don't know who he is. By the way, he's the oldest living president, 98, and he will be entering into heaven very soon. So leaving the presidency in January 1981, he could have easily chose a life of speaking gigs and getting paid well and taking advantage of the office of the presidency and just kind of fading into history. But he didn't. Beyond the Carter Center, which was about international conflict resolution, and he stayed on the scene in the Middle East for certain. He also got very involved with Habitat for Humanity, lended tremendous credibility and publicity to a wonderful organization. And you've seen the videos of him out on the job site with gloves and hammering nails and the whole 9 yards. He reinvented himself there. He went on to be a distinguished professor at Emory University in Atlanta, kept teaching. He was even awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2002. And so a man who was not an admired sitting president, in the days to follow, you will see that he became a man who was admired post-presidency. And so that day, I asked him several questions, but I'm going to set up a question that I asked him in the book, One Question. And this was the question. How can we continue to move forward and reinvent ourselves in a new season? And I'll read just a bit of his answer. He said, a number of years ago, I wrote a book called The Virtues of Aging, and I realized that a lot of people in our country retire in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they have 10, 20, 30 years ahead of them. What are they going to do with that time? Sometimes we have a very discouraging experience in our lives. For example, I wanted to be president for a second term, and I wasn't reelected. You have to make a decision about what you're going to do when you have a plan that is terminated. You just have to look at where you can spend the rest of your life, your daily existence in the most productive, enjoyable, adventurous, unpredictable, and gratifying way. We have to decide how to accommodate changing times in life, and all of us are confronted with changing times. As we age, we often slow down, or at worst, we begin to shut down. This is the thought that I'm having. I just look at my own parents now in their 70s. And my dad is slowing down more than my mom is slowing down, literally and physically. I was talking to him last night, and they're walking 5 miles every day. I'm very proud of them. They're doing great. And my mom was talking a little trash on the phone. And I thought it was pretty great because she's awesome. She was like, yeah, I tend to walk faster than your dad. He's always telling me to slow down. And my dad's like, yeah, if I don't tell her, she'll just take off. I said, Mom, leave his butt in the dust tomorrow. Let's just see how he does. I said, I want to see you set a faster pace for Dad because I think you can do more. We had a little sweet moment of kind of having some fun at my dad's expense. But I have seen in my own parents that with age, they're slowing down. And then the cultural expectation is that we work for 30 years or 40 years or whatever to reach a certain age. And we hope we have enough money piled up. And then what do? We retire. I'm not a fan of retirement, and I don't plan to retire. I might slow my schedule down, but I promise you, I hope I'm working when God takes me. I think it'd be pretty fantastic. I really do. To be doing some work somewhere around the country, around the globe, when I'm an old fart and just kind of, that's it. Boom, done. He died doing what he loved, baby. I mean, that's my hope. There's a whole lot of science, by the way, that would suggest I'm right, that we harm ourselves when we stop contributing. You notice I didn't use the word working because for some of you that your view of work is so twisted as culture has taught you to twist it up that it's this thing I got to do instead of something I get to do. And this isn't a golden years application that I think President Carter gave us. This idea that when life comes at us and changes things wholesale, we have a choice of how we're going to react. Either you accept the change and you are resigned to the new reality, or you accept the change and reinvent your reality. See, resignation is, well, okay, that's just how it is. Versus, all right, it's time for something new. Do you see the difference? And this is as relevant in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s as it is in your 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I hope we take the words from a great man who was not a great president, but I think we can all say that Jimmy Carter lived a great life. And he reinvented himself many times over. May we all reinvent ourselves when life throws change at us and keep contributing to make this world a better place.
If the thought of attending a networking event makes you break out in hives, you're not alone. And I'll let you in on a secret. Networking in the traditional sense doesn't work, but genuine connection is all about relationships. That's why we created Networking the Right Way. This free guide is the low-pressure, high-impact way to overcome the awkwardness, build real relationships, and turn your connections into opportunities. To get the guide, go to kencoleman.com/network.
Helping you get unstuck so you can become unstoppable. I'm Ken. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Okay, nurses. Hello, nurses. This is for you. But there's application for everybody. So let's start with the 4-alarm fire, shall we? That is threatening to become a dumpster fire. In my hands, I have a Fox Business article. Here's the headline: Nursing burnout. Nurses worry shortage will worsen if measures aren't taken. Now, as I'm going through this, I want those of you who aren't nurses to ask yourself, how many of you are in this same situation? How can you do what I'm telling nurses to think about doing? Then we've got a really hopeful story. So we're going to start with some pain, and we're going to analyze why the pain is there. And let me tell you what you can do about it, and then I'm going to show you a story of someone who's figured it out. So this is going to be very hopeful, but first the pain. There's an ongoing nursing shortage crisis, which was already building prior to the pandemic, but now, according to Karen Fountain, an ER level 1 trauma nurse who manages 240 nurses deployed in New York City hospitals, that's part of the problem. We'll get to that in a moment. As the director of clinical services and nursing for Ingenovis Health Travel Nurses. This is a direct quote. She said, many nurses are walking away from the job in tears. We don't want to offer poor care, and we do our best not to. But when you have the ratio nurses are facing now, there is no way to deliver the best health care that you want. And what she's talking about as it relates to ratios is the amount of people coming in that need care versus the amount of people who can help them. According to a March survey from Incredible Health, folks, this is stark. This is going to freak some of you out, and it probably should. 34% of nurses surveyed said it's very likely they will quit their jobs by the end of the year. Now, I pride myself on being a very positive, optimistic guy, but I also am not a person who sticks his head in the sand. 34% of nurses say they're going to quit by the end of the year. You just do the math on that. That's a problem, folks. About 44% of nurses said burnout in the high-stress environment is the driving force behind their decision to quit. This is a solvable problem. So instead of being afraid, we ought to be outraged. Last I checked, CEOs of hospitals are making a lot of money. Healthcare's big business. And the people who are on the front lines, our nurses, are saying they're going to walk away from the battle, not because they're bad people, but because they're walking wounded and they feel they're going to die and they got to take care of themselves. I don't mean die physically. I mean die spiritually. Their soul is being sucked out of their body. I don't fault these nurses. Where are all these geniuses in healthcare? All these people making money hand over fist. I know my healthcare went up. Did yours? You're telling me this isn't a solvable problem? You tell me that's burnout, which is all emotion. It's all real. But burnout is an emotional state that comes from feeling hopeless and helpless. You give people help, watch their hope go back up. I'm not going to keep breaking this down much further, but the bottom line is that the way to solve this is getting support, healthcare support opportunities and jobs out there, giving nurses in nursing schools greater opportunity to actually train while in school. How about we do less classroom and more mentorship? Has it occurred to any geniuses in the nursing industry that why don't we take all these people that are studying to be nurses and get them on the job? And while they're not doing nurse duties, they're watching nurse duties. Watch. And they're helping the nurses do stuff that they can do that don't require the medical training. There's a thought. This country was built on apprenticeships. You wanted to be a blacksmith, you know what you did? You went and worked for a blacksmith that did all the junk and grunt work that the blacksmith didn't want to do. But while you were doing that, you learned how to do it. Don't tell me nursing isn't the same. I'm tired of all these eggheads and politicians and lobbyists and everybody just trying to take advantage of the system when we've got real life problems. Nurses, I'm here for you. Hear me say, if you've got to walk away from the industry, watch. I'm going to give you a wonderful example, but listen to me, nurses. I want to talk right to your heart because I've talked to many of you on the show. One of the things that's keeping these nurses in this prolonged rut of burnout is because they feel guilty leaving. And the reason they feel guilty leaving is the reason they joined the industry in the first place. They're caregivers. They have a huge heart for serving people, and yet they're dying because they're not being cared for. And so then they go, well, I got to walk away to take care of me, but I feel like a jerk. And listen to me, nurses. It's not your problem. You can't solve it, but you can take care of you. And listen to me. A nurse can go into multiple jobs in multiple fields and give care in other ways. But it creates confusion when you have this deep, abiding passion to serve people in a certain way, and you do it in a place that's so unhealthy, and you go, I got to get out. And so when you get out, you feel like you're a bad person because you left people behind, and then you get confused because you're going, what am I going to do? And I would just tell you, your nursing skills, your nursing experience make you tremendously valuable in other places. So you get your head up high, shoulders back, and you walk into a healthy environment. Now, another story, and let's give you some hope. Nurse banks millions after side hustle goes viral. My favorite quote in the headline, it was very unintentional. So imagine if we put some intention to this. This is a great story. ER nurse and popular TikTok content creator Stephanie Beggs told Fox Business her story. She now has created a small business for nurses seeking study assistance when studying for their NCLEX exam. This is her direct quote. I fell into it. I got started selling my notes. How it started for her is she was studying for the board's exam, and it was right when the pandemic happened, so she didn't have anybody to study with. So she would teach. This is so great. She goes, I would teach myself to the wall. It's just like what I'm doing right now. We got some awesome live studio audience members out in the lobby today, but I'm looking at a camera and I'm teaching to a big black window, and I'm teaching to myself for you to get it. So she's teaching herself, and she recorded it so she could watch it back later. And that's how she studied. Well, she decided to share one video and it went bananas. So people started, she put it on social media, they loved it. And then she said people started asking her if she would sell them her study sheets. So she created a shop on Etsy that became viral. And so now I sell study sheets. She sells her study sheets at a rate of $2 per sheet, class-specific sheets for $30 to $40, or a giant bundle covering the majority of nursing school subjects for $150. And she's making millions. How did it happen? Yes, it was unintentional, but I want you to get the real truth of where a good business idea comes from. She was solving her own problem. Her problem was she didn't have anybody to study with. So she thought, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll get out my study sheets, and I'm just going to put a camera in front of me, my phone, and I'm going to read to the wall, and then I'll watch it back later so that I've already kind of recited what I need to get, and I'll listen to it and watch it. It'll be a little easier. And then she just decided, well, I'm going to share this on social media. She didn't have a business plan, but you know what she had? She had a solution to a problem that turns out a lot of people needed a solution for. It's that simple. So I want to bring this back to everybody. You're looking for that side hustle? You want to work for yourself? Hey, here are 3 questions to answer. What's the problem I want to solve? Who are the people attached to that problem? What's the solution that I can bring to that problem? There's your idea. Go, go, go.
So you just landed the new job. Congratulations. You've made it past the interviews, and now it's time to onboard with excellence. That's why I created How to Stand Out at Your New Job. This free checklist will help you succeed from day one and may even help you get promoted. These practical steps set you up to add value, help your team win, exceed your leaders' expectations, and ultimately set you up for a successful transition. To get started, just go to kencoleman.com/new.
Parts counselor, coach, and cheerleader. I'm Ken. This is the Ken Coleman Show. Time to coach some people up. Let's go to Colleen, who joins us in Fort Worth, Texas. Colleen, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, how are you?
I'm living the dream. What are you doing?
I'm also living the dream, just enjoying a sunny day.
Well, that's very nice. How can I help?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that I'm in the right career, but I am using my giftings and my talents. The disconnect is just at the results.
Oh, okay. So what are you doing now? Paint the picture for me.
So for the last 3 years, I've been a medical esthetician for a dermatologist office, so in the cosmetic side of skincare, just in a medical setting. And I came into it and very quickly realized, man, I'm really good at this, and I think I really shine when it just comes to connecting with women, and I have always known that I wanted to work with women specifically.
Are you better at connecting with women that are sitting in your chair, or are you better at scraping the face and whatever else is involved with all that stuff? I know just enough to get myself in trouble with estheticians.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Connecting with women.
Yeah, and so that's what's leading me to ask you, what is the result of your work? How would you define your work right now as a medical esthetician? What are the results of your work?
Well, someone coming to me with a cosmetic concern, and me doing the work to find them the solution or solve that problem for them.
So we're solving a issue on the face.
Yes.
But that's not the result that gets you the most juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us, what are the results that you really want to produce?
Yeah.
And for who?
So for who, I really want to help people who can't offer me a thing back.
Interesting. Go deeper. Yeah. Go deeper.
I'm not a salesperson. I probably give away more than I sell. And
so you're supposed to sell products to them?
Yeah, well, that's part of it.
Okay. But again, talk to me about the people you really, really want to help. Because that's going to answer that results question. Because I appreciate what you're saying. You're not going deep enough. Saying, I want to help people who can't give me anything back, that's a style thing. That's a philosophy thing that it will inform the results, but it's not deep enough. Who are the people that you really want to help? Because that's the answer to the results question. Who are the people? Be specific. What problem do they have? What desire do they have?
Women that are vulnerable, physically, emotionally vulnerable, kind of maybe coming out of bad situations. I really have a heart for anti-human sex trafficking.
Great. There's the answer.
Yeah.
High level, because this is important. High level, you want to help people that are vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess is because you love connecting with the women in your esthetician chair, it's really more of a counseling, connecting type work that you want to do. You want to meet women who have been obviously subjected to some horrific stuff. They feel damaged, all manner of emotions, and you want to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
And help them feel valued and loved and beautiful again.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a personal story on this? Or is it just a cause that has kind of gripped your heart?
A cause that has gripped my heart through nothing personal with me per se.
Mm-hmm.
But, for other reasons, other than just outside of
I don't need to know them, but my point is it's personal to you, and that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you got to listen to that. You got to listen to it. You can't ignore it. And I'm not saying you are, but don't let anybody downplay this. This is deep on your heart. And that's the point that I'm trying to pull out for you, is that this is deep. So this is exactly what, so the results that matter for you are one of I'm just going to call it connecting, counseling. I'm not going to try to pin you into a corner on a career path, but we're going to start with beginning to see in the Fort Worth, Texas areas where we start, just so it doesn't feel so intimidating. We want to use the law of the zip code, which says everything I need to get started is already around me. So let's find who's serving those women in Fort Worth, Texas, and we start by volunteering and just getting in and beginning to clarify and verify. Clarify how I want to help these women and verify that this is, in fact, something I want to do full-time professionally. Hang on the line. I want to make sure you have my book, From Paycheck to Purpose, The Clear Path that will walk you all the way through this. Colleen, you are amazing. You're going to help a lot of women. Thank you for calling.
Did you know that just like a product, you have a personal brand? It's the image or impression others form about you based on your interactions. And whether we realize it or not, our personal brand impacts opportunities to grow in our careers. That's why our team created the Personal Brand Survey. It's free, and it will give you personal and professional feedback so you can own your strengths and uncover any blind spots holding you back. To get started, go to kencoleman.com/brand.
All right, what if I told you, folks, that in about 10 to 15 minutes, you could get customized results, a true report on what you do best, what you love to do, and what results motivate you? Would you take that? Well, you're in good hands today because we created the Get Clear Career Assessment, which does that for you. This is the actual printout, but you get a digital copy, and it gives you a purpose statement that is highlighted with your specific top 3 talents, things you do best, top 3 passions, work you love to do, and then your driving motivator. In other words, results that get you fired up, get you out of bed. And this is all customized to you. And then we also give you a list of professional possibilities. These are idea starters. They are not conclusions. And it gets you going. To get it, go to kencoleman.com/assessment. kencoleman.com/assessment. And right now we got Sarah on the line in Columbus, Ohio, who took the Get Clear assessment. She needs a little bit more help. So we're going to do that. Let's go to Sarah now. Sarah, you're on the Ken Coleman Show.
Hi, Candace. Hi, how are you?
I am living the dream, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm trying to get there.
You're going to get there. I'm here to help. All right. What's going on?
So I took your, I just want to get some clarity. I took your Get Clear assessment, and I did go to school for a dental assistant, and I've always thought I would want to be a dental hygienist, but I'm not too sure anymore.
Okay. Give me your results of your assessment. Read them to me slowly so I can write them down here. Top 3 talents. Just read your purpose. Yep. Top 3 talents, things you do best. Go.
Imagination, justice, and compassion.
Okay, hold on. Imagination, justice, and compassion. That's what she's really good at doing. You agree with that, by the way? You agree with those results?
Yeah, but I'm not too sure about the justice part.
I'll explain it. I'll explain that. All right, let's go with passion next. The top 3 things you love to do, the type of work. What do you got?
Leading, creating, and making.
Leading, creating, and making. Anything in that list that you're not sure about?
The making part.
Okay. All right. We'll go through that as well. All right. And then your driving mission, your number 1 motivator. What is that?
Creation.
Okay. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
I even heard a smile on that one, I think. Did I hear a smile?
Yes.
Oh, yes. I love it. Okay. Now, for everybody that's listening, you got to go back in your report, and I'm going to read to you. I'm going to go to the glossary, but justice is the thing you're not sure about. And I created this assessment myself. I actually did it. I wrote this stuff. I spent 2 years working on trying to come up with words that would in some way define all of the talent in the world. It's very hard to do. The reason I chose the word justice, and I'm going to read this to you, and you tell me if this matches you. You have a strong sense of right and wrong, and you're quick to defend the vulnerable. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay. You have a high justice meter, and you can imagine yourself in other situations. That's empathy. Is that still true of you?
Yes.
You're good at protecting the weak and challenging injustice. You stand up against people who are abusing others. Is that all still true of you?
That part, I'm a little nervous when I try to stand up because I don't really stand up for myself.
Yeah, but you want to, is the point.
Yes.
All right,
yes.
That's what we're saying. So I chose that as a talent because I wanted people to understand that I really believe that is a strength. And so talent's another way of saying strength. This strong sense of justice is absolutely a power tool to be used to do good in the world. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
All right. So back to your purpose statement. Your top talents of imagination, that's very creative. You imagine things that don't exist. The justice is about, again, things being right, doing right for the right reasons, that we can just kind of lump all that in there. Okay? And then compassion, you naturally just love people well. And that's huge. Now, the work you love to do is leading, creating, and what was the other one? Making. Okay.
Making.
So the making part you weren't sure of, but the making is the talent of taking something in any creative aspect and making it happen. So in other words, it could be a woodworker. Could be. Could also be somebody who does crafts. But it could be
I really enjoy doing crafts.
Okay, great. So you answered your questions correctly, and thus your results are there. So if we go through, the work you love is leading. By the way, that's about people. That's where your compassion talent comes in. And you just love guiding people or being an example for folks. And the creating is anything creative. It could be creating a solution for people. Do you see that?
Yes.
See, creation is not limited to using my hands. I've created 3 books out of thin air. I create a show every day. I create this show. This show doesn't just happen. I create it with the team. I create content every day. But if you've ever seen me color, I have a hard time staying between the lines. I'm not very good artistically. The best drawing I've ever done is the one around your hand. You know, around Thanksgiving in elementary school. That's on my limit. Okay, but I'm still creative. Yes or no?
Yes.
Is a welder creative? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Is a mechanic creative? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Is a teacher creative? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So we're all creative. Now, the word creation shows up twice in your purpose statement. I was created to use my talents of imagination, justice, compassion to do the work I love, leading, creating, and making, all for creation. You must be in a state of imagining what could be, deciding what should be, and acting on what must be. Does that start to make sense for you when I say it that way?
Yes.
Yes, I hear that smile again. I can hear it. So it comes down now to ideas. And where do ideas come from? So you know who you are. This purpose statement is absolutely spot on, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, how do we create a job description based on that purpose statement? Well, we take the purpose statement, we read it over and over and over. I want you to read it 2 or 3 times a night before you go to bed. I want you to read it first thing in the morning and begin to see it and believe it, that this is a high-level job description. So I need to be spending most of my day using those top 3 talents, performing those top 3 passions, and creating results that are all about my creativity. I must be creating creative things. So we start there, all right? So then we go, okay, here's where the ideas come from. I want you to write these questions down. Who are the people I really want to help? What's the problem or desire those people have? And then what are the solutions that I would create to solve the problem or meet the desire? Do you understand those 3 questions?
Yes.
That's where the ideas come from. So when we begin to go, these are the people I want to help creatively, then we go, oh, who's helping them now? Where is that? Can I get over there and observe? Volunteer, go get a job. Entry level. And they pay me to learn how to serve these people. And I begin to see what I would do differently. Do you understand now how this momentum gets created?
Yes.
All right. So I'm not going to make you say it on the air right now. But I want you to answer that question before you go to bed tonight, and then come back the next day and answer it again and answer it again and answer it again, and use a pencil because we can erase and start all over. And as we begin this process of continually asking the question, who are the people I want to help with my talents and with my passion? What is the problem or desire that they have that I can use my talent and passion to solve? Folks, this is where the ideas come from. And can I just tell you, those of you out there who feel like you have no confidence, you feel stuck in your brain, let me tell you something. This assessment, the Get Clear assessment, and those questions, who do I want to help? What problem do I want to solve? What solution do I want to provide? Guess what the heart does? The heart begins to reveal answers, and you can't stop it. Press on.
Thanks for listening to The Ken Coleman Show. For more, you can find the show on demand wherever you listen to podcasts and watch the show on YouTube. You can also find Ken across all social media by following @Ken Coleman.